Hey, everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan. And wow, what a crazy 24 hours it's been. In the US, Monday, banks had a very bad day. Stocks sank. B of A slid 15%, Wells Fargo 14%, JP Morgan 14%, Citigroup 19%, Goldman 12%, and Discover Financial Services a shocking 26%. And this all came yet after another rate cut. And the Bank of Japan, they also had an emergency meeting. It was streamed live, and Kuroda-san said he is going to leave the minus 0.1% short-term interest rate and pledge the long-term rates around zero. Well, he doesn't have any other choice because there's nothing else he can do. The surprise, however, came when he announced that they would aggressively buy riskier assets, such as ETFs. I don't know how that is going to go. The market did stay positive today for the Nikkei, so maybe the United States will follow. I'm not sure. That's yet to be seen. And at 11 o'clock last night, Japan time, there was an emergency meeting with the G7. This is a photo from that meeting, and the video conference was put on Twitter by a political journalist, Alvin L. You can find him at Alvin LLUM. You can see Prime Minister Abe-san is in the foreground, and then the leaders from Paris, Washington, Rome, London, Ottawa, and Berlin are in the conference. So I think there is one bit of information that came out of yesterday's news that I just can't quite believe. And this is the Federal Reserve is encouraging banks to use their capital and liquidity buffers as they lend to households and businesses who are affected by the situation. Since the global financial crisis of 2007-2008, U.S. bank holding companies have built up substantial levels of capital and liquidity in excess of the regulatory minimums and buffers. And these capital and liquidity buffers are designed to support the economy in adverse situations and allow banks to continue to serve households and businesses. The Federal Reserve supports firms that choose to use their capital and liquidity buffers to lend and undertake other supportive actions in a safe and sound manner. I just can't believe it. The board has reduced reserve requirement ratios to 0% effective on March 26th. This action eliminates reserve requirements for thousands of depository institutions and will help support lending to households and businesses. So you can imagine that should they tap into those reserves and the market continues to go in the direction that it is seemingly going, the back end treasury is going to have to pay attention to every nickel. And this is why I think the regulatory clarity will come sooner than later, because it is going to be so important to be able to save every single penny, especially when it comes to cross-border remittances, and the use of XRP allows for that. So even though I don't like to see this easing of their liquidity buffers, I can see that it might have a positive effect on regulation. So let's just wait and see. Another announcement, it came from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and it will be effective April 1st. That is an announcement from Treasury Stephen Mnuchin. And under his authority, he will put Brian Brooks into the Chief Operating Officer to help him ensure stability with the financial system. So, poaching Brian from Coinbase, this is a position that he took in September 2018, might not be surprising to some. because the two of them were working together at One West Bank. This is a picture taken in 2011. You can see Brian here on the left. He was the vice chairman, and here's Mnuchin on the right of Brian as you face the picture, and he was the chairman, respectively. Now, what should be surprising is the speckled history of One West Bank, and that is because of a leaked memo that you can easily find. It was released in 2013, and it is talking about the widespread misconduct of the bank at that time. That, to me, is shocking. So, should you want to have a look at how the international liquidity indicators are, that is available from the IMF. I'll put a link to it in the description below, because I think Brooks and Mnuchin are going to be very, very busy and very much under pressure to keep this financial system from imploding. And the last thing you want to do if you run into trouble is to approach the IMF. They, as they call themselves, are the lender of last resort. And that is a function that after many a global financial crisis, they know all too much about. This is a 68-page paper that talks about the framework that they use in those stressed times. So moving on to a subject that I've wanted to talk about for a couple of days now, that's India. Mainly because of the recent changes to the laws regarding crypto. India, in terms of its foreign reserves, they actually are not in bad shape. They have surged by 5.6 billion, reaching an all-time high of 487 billion as of March 6th. They have been able to improve their gold reserves. It has risen 320 million to 31 billion. And the special drawing rights also with the IMF are up 15 million to 1.4 billion. Yes, there's a little trouble with Yes Bank. That is a bank in India that was one of the first banks in the country to join Ripple's global payments network. But fortunately, they have been helped out by the State Bank of India. They've stepped in with a collective fund. And just in the last 12 hours, Moody's actually raised their outlook to positive. So I think they're on the mends. But Ripple, you really need to know, has made tremendous inroads into this country. And as explained back in June 2019 in this video that Bank XRP shared with Sachin Maharishi, he is an engineer that works in this region for Ripple. And starting at the 9-minute, 8-second mark, he says that all the banks in India are on the RippleNet rails now. I don't know if that's really the case, but obviously there has been many. And this is why the news on March 4th was so big, with the Indian Supreme Court lifting the ban on cryptocurrencies. Now, it's not all free sailing. The RBI, they really, even though they failed to show how crypto puts the banking system at risk, they still want to file a review. So we're not totally there yet. But the biggest news today in regards to India comes from CZ at Binance. And this is an announcement that actually showed up in the Economic Times in India. And Binance will be setting up a $50 million blockchain fund in the country. And every XRP holder should be thanking CZ. The fund will allocate $100,000 per startup for the needed things like fiat to crypto gateways, trading platforms, payment and remittance solutions, digital wallets, and above all, mentoring. So in order to have that liquidity for XRP to function correctly, we need to have this infrastructure built. And I just think this is probably the best news of the day for Ripple and XRP. Thailand is a country that felt the same way that India does now, not too long ago, like less than a year ago. But they eventually came around and saw that staying out of crypto would keep them from being competitive. So not only did they change, but they also have created that law so that the cryptocurrency could be used in 2020. So I just don't want anyone to forget. Please send CZ on Twitter a thank you, because this remittance corridor in India stands at 79 billion, according to the World Bank. It's the largest corridor in the world, followed by China, Mexico, the Philippines, and Egypt. And there was a really great article in the banking payment source media with an interview that Ashish Birla gave. And he just has some fantastic quotes in there. And I just will put a link to it in the description below. But basically, the massive market that he sees, he just wants to go out and win. You get him, Ashish. All right, everybody, we're jumping to some fluff. Today, I want to talk about Kamon. Kamon is the Japanese crest. It's very similar to the crest that you might find in the way of shields in Europe. There are 20,000 crests on record, and the motifs are derived from a wide range of plants, birds, and animals, but also, too, insects. Dragonflies were very popular during the Edo period because in Japan they are considered the winning insect because they never retreat. These kamon are very intricate. They're hand cut with microscopic attention to detail. Here is one of the last artisans in Tokyo, and he is really taking this art form and bringing it to a whole new level. I want to share with you the work that he does by putting his website in the description below. But the craft of making them now is becoming endangered. And even though that the kamon started with the imperial court back in the 8th century, during the Edo period, the samurai class then put them on their clothing, lanterns, or anything to show ownership. And this guy, who was born in Tokyo, his name is Hataba Shoryu. He's a superstar, and he's so cool. And he has taken this art form to a very modern level. He's creating what's called, what are these? These are I'm going to just mess that up, kakejiku. And that is the scroll art that you find in traditional homes. But this is an example of a very modern Japanese home. And here is the kamon design created for a modern era. It's just so beautiful. So I hope you enjoy looking at his website because he has inspired many designs from wedding rings to handbags. It's just really an example of how somebody has reinvented this craft and bringing it into the modern age. All right, everybody, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.